And maybe one thing that I think is a little bit different than others is a lot of people think it's, okay, there's going to be these big companies and they're just going to lay off everybody or all these people and then they're going to replace them with AIs and that's how it's going to happen. I actually think that that's going to be a very small part of it. I think the bigger part of it is all of these new companies that are being created like HeyGen, where they're AI native companies. And so they're hiring with kind of AI fluency and kind of the AI native mindset baked in. And as a result, they're going to hire much fewer people. And these companies are going to grow, and we're already seeing them grow to enormous scales where they can generate $2 million per employee, $5 million per employee, $10 million per employee, kind of these efficiency levels that we've never seen before.
Welcome to Frank Growth. I'm Jason Shafton, and I run the growth consulting firm Winston Francois. Around here, we tell the truth about growing, the good, the bad, and the can't say it out loud ugly. Every episode, we get tactical with operators, investors, and builders about what works, what breaks, and what to do next. No fluff, no vanity metrics, no hustle theater, just signal. This is Frank Growth. Let's get into it. Today, we've got Andrew Mock, the AI native CMO. Before we bring Andrew on, a quick riff on today's topic. Marketing has a dirty little secret. Most of the job is mechanical. Reporting, campaign setup, copy iterations, briefing agencies, scheduling posts, pulling data, the stuff that eats your Tuesday afternoon and most of Wednesday. And it's eating it fast. And the question nobody is answering clearly yet is, if AI handles the mechanics, what is the CMO job? 3 things that I see that are broken and how most marketing leaders are responding to this. Tool adoption theater, adding AI features without changing how the team actually works. The org chart stays the same, the process stays the same, there's just a new plugin attached. Second, measurement avoidance. The hardest part of AI marketing is not running the tools, it's knowing what to measure when the attribution models don't fit anymore. And third, the democratization blind spot. AI video, AI content, AI copy means the barriers to marketing are dropping for everyone, including your competitors in turn. Here's what actually works. First, build AI into the operating system, not the workflow, the difference between a feature you use and the way your team thinks. Second, stay closest to the customer. When AI can synthesize 100 interviews a week, the human advantage is judgment about which questions to ask. And finally, capital efficiency is a weapon. HeyGen is cash flow break even at 200 million ARR. That is not a constraint. That is a moat. That's the frame we'll use today. Andrew spent 12 years building Turo from zero. He is now CMO at HeyGen, a company that just doubled its ARR to 200 million in 8 months. It's break even and shipping 63 features a quarter. He is not talking about AI as a future trend. He is running marketing with it right now. Let's get tactical.
Thanks for having me, Jason.
You know, man, we go way back. I was thinking about it the other day. It's over 10 years. I remember meeting you at a marketplace startup dinner in LA for all of us. You know, you were running marketing at Turo. I think it was hosted by the guy doing Bird. I was doing Heel. It's been a long road. And, you know, your background is so cool. And that's when we had lunch a couple of weeks back. I was like, I got to get you on the podcast because you have so many good stories to tell. You kind of spent 12 years at Turo, and that's a company that really had to convince people to hand their car keys to a stranger. And now you're at CMO at HeyGen, helping people put their face and voice into AI-generated video at scale. Both stories are fundamentally about convincing people to trust something new. And both are about who gets access to something that used to be out of reach. Let's start with the long arc. Let's get into it. You ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
So 12 years at Turo, that is the full life cycle of a lot of companies and very much bucking the trend of like the CMO turnover that you and I know well. What does that kind of tenure teach you about brand and growth that a shorter stint cannot?
You know, it was really an incredible journey at Turo. Now in the year 2026, people kind of look at companies like Airbnb and Uber and all the sharing economy kin, and they're like, oh yeah, like so obvious. Why didn't I think of that? You know, such a great idea. But back when I joined in 2012 and back when the company was founded in 2010, I mean, this idea was totally crazy. It's kind of akin, I would say, to how people are feeling a bit about AI now. But back then, you know, you're sleeping in stranger's home, or you're getting in a stranger's car and they're driving you around, or, you know, in Turo's case, you're literally letting a stranger drive away with your car. It was a completely crazy concept. And so, you know, the whole journey of building the category, building the brand was pretty remarkable. A lot of highs and lows, but very rewarding.
I got to think that there were many over the 12 years, tough moments, anything that jumps out that you can share.
You know, anybody who has ever worked in PR before, you know, you go through crisis PR training and you dream up the worst scenario. You know, a car crashes into a bus full of nuns. A terrorist takes a car and does something tragic. That happened to us. It was extremely difficult. This was over New Year's, going from 2024 to 2025. You know, 2 cars were rented by terrorists and they were used for terror attacks. one in New Orleans and one in Vegas. And that was undoubtedly like just such a massive low for us at the company. It kind of felt like the company was going to crumble apart at that moment. But what ended up, I would say, happening was we handled it with transparency. We kind of said everything that we did. We talked about everything that we wanted to fix afterwards. And I would say I was very pleasantly surprised by how people received it. When you didn't try to cover it up and you didn't try to hide things, you just kind of let it all out in the open. I remember our CEO had this very emotional interview on CNBC. I think people kind of understood that we have the best intentions. We did the best on trust and safety. These people kind of slipped through the cracks and we're going to get better. And it ended up being actually kind of a rallying cry for the company. And I think we actually got a lot stronger as a result of it.
That's amazing. Turo required convincing people to do something they'd never done before, rent their personal car to a stranger. And HeyGen requires trusting an AI version of yourself. Are there connections there? Is the consumer psychology similar or super different?
A lot of similarities in the fact that it's a completely new paradigm. So just like with anything new, there's going to be some hesitation and some skepticism. And I think it's, sort of the parallel of like trust. With Turo, you have to trust a stranger with your property. With HeyGen, you have to trust the company with your identity and with your likeness. And then if you extend that further, you have to believe that your audience will trust that, you're still being your true authentic self and you're not generating kind of AI slop. I think with AI, there's just sort of this groundswell of anxiety and hesitation about AI replacing humans and AI replacing jobs and disrupting the entire world. And so anything that gets categorized in the AI ecosystem is kind of casted with a negative light. So I think there are similarities to Turo, but I think actually with HeyGen and kind of the broader AI ecosystem, the anxiety, the hesitation is maybe 100x.
You wrote that Turo hosts skewed more entrepreneurial, often immigrants, communities of color, people who had the most to gain from a new economic model. Did that shape how you think about who your real customer was?
100%. I think anytime a new technology or new platform is built, it democratizes opportunity. And that comes with good and also comes with some bad. But one thing that is, I think, overwhelmingly good is that it just levels the playing field a bit more. So with Turo, it gave people the opportunity to start their own small business. Oftentimes, these were people who didn't have traditional access to capital or maybe didn't have traditional education. So they were more likely to skew towards communities of color, less privileged communities, et cetera, but still had the right mentality and still had that right drive and entrepreneurial spirit. It's the same thing with HeyGen. We're finding that the HeyGen heroes, the core customers for us, it's not who you would think. A lot of times people think of AI company, AI video. Oh, it's, these techie people. It's like these AI enthusiasts who are like young and coders and things like that. It couldn't be farther from the truth. Actually, our core customer, our ICP, actually skews a bit older. It tends to be people who are small business professionals who see that in this day and age, to grow your small business, you have to grow your personal brand, which means, until HeyGen, you had to be on camera. You had to create an Instagram account, a TikTok account, film 2 pieces of content a day. A lot of people don't have time to do that. A lot of people actually just don't feel comfortable doing that. And so we're seeing that as sort of leveling the playing field for a lot of small businesses and solopreneurs who previously were kind of locked out of the content game.
Yeah. You joined HeyGen in early 2026. What finally made you, leave after your very long run at Turo to take on this new challenge?
It just felt like such an incredible opportunity. And I'll be the first to admit that I'm definitely in the AI enthusiast camp of things. I'm not a doomer. I'm very optimistic about the opportunities that it can unlock. And so just in general, to be a part of the generation of people I think who are going to shape and build AI responsibly, I wanted to be a part of that, and I felt like I could add a lot to it. So that was kind of the first thing. And then the second thing is specifically the company. I was just very drawn to the mission and very drawn to the co-founder and CEO of our company, Joshua. His story for founding the business was that, so he's in engineering by trade, by background. As I've gotten to know him a bit more, he's truly like a savant, like a genius, very, very smart guy, introverted though. And in this day and age, when you're building a company, oftentimes the founder is expected to be that extroverted, like Elon Musk, always out there, their personal brand on camera, and that just wasn't him. So he was very excited about starting HeyGen because he felt like it gave introverts, it gave maybe people who are more camera shy the opportunity to be out there in videos, show their face, even if they were camera shy. And that's why our tagline is free your story. That's our mission is making visual storytelling accessible for all, because it's all about giving everybody the opportunity, even if they're not extroverted or the loudest person in the world, to be able to be out there and to express themselves.
Personal branding for introverts. I love it. Obviously for anybody now, but that's the founder story there is very compelling. The company has been on a tear. I think you hit 200 million in ARR, doubling over 8 months. You joined in the middle of that run, I believe. What did marketing actually look like at that velocity? What have you kind of changed and cut and modified since you joined to keep up that aggressive pace?
I just joined 4 months ago, so I wish I could take credit for the rapid speed. But if I'm honest, a lot of that growth is product led. It's offering something new and differentiated. It's offering a seamless experience. It's solving a real problem for people. So that's actually driven most of the growth. What I've come in and started to help the team with is a bit more about just like, how do we tell the narrative of the company? Because I think that we in the past kind of focus a lot on the capabilities, the technical capabilities. We sort of have like an engineering background. We have 100x engineers. We're building and shipping things super fast. And I think one of the things that we're realizing is to go from the AI enthusiasts, kind of the early adopters, to the mainstream, you really have to tell the story in a clear way and be clear about what human problems you're solving for people. Because the AI enthusiast is going to be drawn to the tech. The mainstream needs to understand what problem is this going to solve in my life. So that's the bridge that I'm trying to create.
You're also, I believe, like cash flow break even, not requiring raising more capital and growing in a market where most companies are still just lighting money on fire and watching these frontier labs just burn massive amounts of capital. Even though you've only been there a short time, how are you bringing discipline to the marketing function to support that?
Yeah, I think so sort of the key to our economics is that we have completely verticalized kind of end-to-end stacks. We own our own model. We own our own inference engine where we can run inference 10x cheaper than the general video models. And then we have an application layer that's custom built for our video model, which specializes in digital twins in avatar videos. So we have run head-to-head tests versus all of the big guys on, the likeness of your digital twin. Does it sound like you? Does it move like you? Is it authentic? And we beat all of them by a long shot. And so we take a lot of pride in the fact that like we sort of have this end-to-end stack. We're not just one piece of the puzzle. And as a result, we control our own destiny. We control our own economics. And so that's a really big part, I would say, of what makes the company successful and allows us to reinvest in growth in other ways.
You also posted something that I just keep coming back to, Andrew. Strip the noise away, and really there are only 3 things that matter. You said customers, culture, company. Most CMOs will say things like that, but fewer actually run their team and their business that way. Talk more about that and what it looks like in practice for you.
Yeah, I think that if there's anything I learned from the 12-year journey of building Turo from, essentially zero to as big as it got, it's that there's a lot of noise in the journey. And what I found was that when we adhered to one of these 3 C's, customers, company fundamentals, and culture, if we just focused on those things, we never went wrong. It never led us astray. And here at HeyGen, we really put a premium on all those things, but I would say especially on the customer side. So across the entire company, we don't have a huge company, by the way. We're about 130 people. We do probably on average about 100 to 200 customer interviews a week across everybody. I myself aim to do somewhere between 3 to 5. We put all of this into a big database. Of course, it's curated by our agents and et cetera. And actually, we've created an internal MCP for this service so that it can be integrated into everything that we do. So I'll chat with through my agent, I'll query the MCP and I'll say, hey, what are the top pain points we're hearing from customers? What's content that we can create on YouTube or on Instagram that can help solve one of the educational gaps that people have? What are the main reasons that people are churning right now? What are people saying about our competitors versus HeyGen? It's sort of like the customer voice is intertwined in the company. It's like they're there with us because they're integrated in all of our tools. And I just found that to be really cool. I've never at Turo, we also really focus on the customer, but with technology now and with AI, it feels like the customer voice is even stronger than ever.
You're touching on something that I want to spend a bit of time on, which is the idea of this AI operating system, right? You're really at an AI native, AI first company now, and you have this personal AI agent, I think named Mara.
Yeah, that's right. She stands for Marketing Automation and Research Agent.
Oh, I love it.
A little corny.
Oh, it's great. She manages paid campaigns with actual budget. She runs incrementality tests, gives you a morning metrics briefing, synthesizes weekly team updates into a video that's narrated by your avatar. So talk about like a Tuesday morning, waking up to all the work that she's done overnight.
Actually, oftentimes I'm on the drive into work, I'm kind of chatting with her and I'm getting a digest. And so I'm getting the readout from what's going on with the company metrics, what channels are going up, what channels are going down, things that people have done. And, we have a note system and kind of activity logs and things like that. And then I can deep dive with her on all sorts of topics. And that way, when I get into the office, I can sort of hit the ground running. I already have like direction. I know kind of where I want to focus today or what the top priorities are. It makes access to information so much more seamless. And that's what I realized as companies get bigger, that's the biggest problem. That's the biggest bottleneck is information flow. It's too slow. And so having sort of this all-knowing agent that has access to all of the information that then every single employee then as a node can connect to that information source. It basically solves that information flow problem and allows everybody to be 10x, 100x more effective at their job.
You're a few months into running this way in a very serious way. What specific bottleneck kind of disappeared first? What's still hard to remove and still gets in the way?
The main bottleneck I would say it removed is really the information flow between team members and then across departments. There's a lot of things that AI agents can do that previously humans used to spend time on. Mundane tasks. For me, you don't even need a fancy agent to do this. I spend a lot of my time writing documents and creating presentations and setting direction. To go from bullet points, stream of consciousness in my head to a document or a presentation, that used to be like a many day and week exercise. And now it's instant. I can do it in 30 seconds. I can do it over voice in my car. And now the main thing that is really slowing you down is like, it's yourself. It's how much time you have, it's how much energy you have, it's hours in the day, et cetera. You're sort of rate limited by yourself versus by somebody else.
Yeah. Let's talk about the kind of elephant in the room with all of the AI disruption that's happening right now. You've written that AI is going to replace jobs and that anyone saying otherwise is probably going to benefit from that replacement. That's more honest than most people are being right now. What do you actually say to your team about what's coming, and how do you think about the future of work and what we all are going to do?
I'll preface this by saying I'm biased because I'm more of an AI optimist than an AI doomer, but I also like to think that I'm pretty realistic and pragmatic, and I sort of see what's happening today. I think net over the long run, there's going to be massive job creation and productivity gain from AI. I just wholeheartedly believe that. I think if you think about every technological revolution going all the way back to the Industrial Revolution, there was anxiety about job replacement, and there was kind of creative destruction and job loss. But over the long run, it was better for the world, it was better for the economy, it was better for people. So I believe that is 100% true. That being said, if you were to really zoom in at this moment in time, this week, this month, this year, there is going to be job replacement. And maybe one thing that I think is a little bit different than others is a lot of people think it's, okay, there's going to be these big companies and they're just going to lay off everybody or all these people and then they're going to replace them with AIs and that's how it's going to happen. I actually think that that's going to be a very small part of it. I think the bigger part of it is all of these new companies that are being created like HeyGen, where they're AI native companies. And so they're hiring with kind of AI fluency and kind of the AI native mindset baked in. And as a result, they're going to hire much fewer people. And these companies are going to grow, and we're already seeing them grow to enormous scales where they can generate $2 million per employee, $5 million per employee, $10 million per employee, kind of these efficiency levels that we've never seen before. And I think that's where a lot of the kind of the job movement is going to happen. Not so much the big companies laying people off, but more these small companies that are more lean and more efficient, more AI native, growing into kind of bigger companies and taking over, sort of a larger share of the economy.
That take makes sense. HeyGen's making video creation very accessible to people who couldn't do it before, couldn't afford it, people like a real estate agent, solopreneur, financial advisor. You're also, though, competing with the professional video creator. How do you think about that tension?
So this is kind of an interesting, many people have probably heard of like the Jevons paradox, which is essentially just like supply and demand, P versus Q. Many people have probably seen this dynamic that's happening in coding, where I think coding is really sort of like the first frontier of AI, where we've gotten to super intelligence or AGI, or it's very, very, very good. And if you zoom in on coding and you zoom in on software engineering, those jobs are skyrocketing, not getting replaced, even though coding is like a problem that's very well solved by AI today. And it's sort of this dynamic that happens where if you really lower the barrier and you lower the friction, you lower the price, the quantity skyrockets. I think the same thing is going to happen with video content. And I think that's already starting to happen today. Take even HeyGen's internal team, for example. We have an internal video team. It's, 5 people, which is, sounds small, but as a percentage of the marketing team, it's actually very big. It's the biggest video team actually that I've ever had because we create probably 100 times more videos than the average company that's not using AI tools. So I think there is going to be, some of that dynamic where by lowering the price, by lowering the friction, the quantity and the demand goes up and it kind of more than outstrips it. That's sort of what we're already seeing play out at our company.
There's a tool you released, an open source framework called Hyperframes, which is video rendering built in HTML. You started coding HTML at age 10. Why does the choice of HTML matter for marketers who are not developers?
So I mentioned, coding, I would say, is like one of the problems that AI has solved very well. The language that is native to AI coding agents is HTML. It's one of the fundamental building blocks of the World Wide Web, of building websites. And so it's very fluent at the language of HTML. And we kind of noticed this gap in the market where a lot of the agentic video creation tools were not based on HTML, they were based on some other languages. And so it created a lot of downstream problems and made it lower quality or less customizable, et cetera. So we said, okay, we want to build this thing because it just seems like an obvious solution to us, and we'll open source it because actually we just want this to be the standard for the world going forward. So we open sourced Hyperframes. We weren't really sure what to expect, but it ended up being a huge hit. We exceeded 30,000 GitHub stars in like a record period of time. And the community response has been really overwhelming. And I would say the thing that we're kind of the most excited about is that this sort of sets a new, much higher floor for people to be able to create videos with agents, what we call agentic video creation, which will then make it much easier for everybody to create videos overall.
It's amazing. And it's also interesting, right? Because you're contributing to open source. HeyGen does not make money from Hyperframes. Talk about that as a strategy for just elevating the brand and kind of doing good for the community.
It's really more about growing the overall market. Like we're in the very, very early innings of AI video and AI content creation. And the thing that's limiting us is not, we need to beat our competitors or we need to monetize this thing and monetize every single little surface. No, it's getting more and more people actually to participate in the ecosystem and to participate in the content creation game. So that's kind of how we see Hyperframes. It's a way for us to expand the pie. And we believe that as we expand the pie, that'll ultimately help us as a business as well.
Smart. What's one thing about HeyGen right now that would genuinely surprise most people who think they know what you guys are up to?
We use HeyGen to create all of our videos. Every video that you see uses HeyGen, so maybe that wouldn't surprise people.
What's something that surprised you when you showed up?
I would say actually how deeply human the culture is and how deeply human everybody is. And how I think there's kind of this perception of a lot of AI companies that it's it's these tech bros and gals who are just trying to, pump up their equity and they have no regard for human life and society and et cetera. And I've been very pleasantly surprised at how much conversation there is about doing things responsibly, about how making sure we don't allow deepfakes and we verify people's identities. We run it against celebrity and public figure registries to make sure that people can't create fake content and AI slop. And so there's a real focus on doing it the right way and building it responsibly, which by the way, there's not really any business incentive to do. If we allowed deep fakes, we would make more money. So at the end of the day, I think it's more about, being focused more on the long game and being more focused on the overall mission of growing AI video content as a category, which I think requires doing it the right way, not doing these short-term things to boost growth.
I think that is a deeply human response. And so it tracks with what you're saying you found when you came there, and no surprise that you're there. Favorite part of the show, Andrew, we do a little lightning round. So quick questions, quick answers. Ready?
Great.
One metric that you look at every single week.
Customer interviews completed.
All right, finish this sentence. The best marketing teams in the AI era will
ship super fast.
The thing that surprised you most in your first 30 days at HeyGen.
How much you can accomplish when you're also surrounded by other people who are AI curious.
All-time favorite HeyGen use case that you've seen?
One of our power users is a YouTube creator, and about a few years ago, she had a pretty bad sickness. It was kind of related to long COVID, and it prevented her ability to record videos anymore. And this was literally her livelihood. So she found HeyGen. Her name is Julia McCoy. You should check out her YouTube channel. It's great. And then she created her avatar, and it basically allowed her to continue her content creation job. And she was very upfront with her community about it. She told her, this is a digital avatar and this is why I'm using it. And everybody was like, cool, this is great. They had a lot of fun with it. And I love that story because not only does it show, again, sort of like the human empowerment part of what AI can unlock, but also I think it shows, like, I think a lot of times people are afraid of AI content or they hate it because they feel like they're getting tricked. But if you tell them and you're honest with them and you're transparent, I actually think people might be okay with it, or more people would be okay with it. And so I think she did a great job with that. And I think it was a great example.
This is awesome. Andrew, where can people connect with you online, follow what you're building, anything you want to share about HeyGen and how to learn more about it?
Yeah, just, check us out, heygen.com. You can create your digital twin and your first videos are free. As for myself, I'm on LinkedIn, so add me, follow me, just my name, Andrew Mock, or on Twitter, Andrew Mock 8.
Andrew, this was exactly what I hoped for. You're one of the few people that I have talked to who is not pretending that the future of marketing is either all AI or no change at all. You're live, you're running the experiment. Thanks for being so frank and being on the show.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jason. Really appreciate it.
That was Andrew Mock. 12 years convincing people to hand their car keys to strangers and now convincing them to trust AI with their face and voice. Here are my quick top 3 from today. If you don't remember anything else, remember these 3. First, selling a new paradigm is a trust problem, and AI anxiety is 100x the sharing economy. With Turo, the trust lived in a single transaction. With HeyGen, you're trusting a company with your identity and your likeness, and betting your audience still sees the real you. Andrew's playbook transfers. Transparency, especially in the worst moments. When the nightmare crisis scenario actually hit Turo, they put everything out in the open, and it became a rallying cry instead of a collapse. Second, make the customer voice infrastructure, not a slide. HeyGen is 130 people running 100 to 200 customer interviews a week, all piped into a database with an internal MCP. Anyone at the company can query top pain points, churn reasons, or competitor chatter in seconds. Andrew still does 3 to 5 of these himself. The customer isn't a persona on a wall. It's a voice living inside every tool the team touches. And finally, lower the barrier and demand explodes. Andrew references the Jevons paradox. AI got very good at coding, and software engineering jobs have skyrocketed. Same with video. HeyGen's 5-person video team produces 100x more content than companies not using AI tools. It's also why they open-sourced Hyperframes instead of monetizing it. This early in a category, you win by expanding the pie, not defending your slice. Here's one action you could do this week in 10 minutes or less. Count the customer conversations you personally had in the last 30 days. Real conversations, not surveys. If you're under 3, send 1 interview right now. The CMO of a $200 million ARR company does 3 to 5 a week. You can book 1. That's Frank Growth. If this gave you something you can use this week, follow the show and share it with one operator or founder who needs it. I'm Jason Shafton from Winston Francois. We help tech companies build sustainable, repeatable growth with a proven operating system. Show notes and takeaways are in the description. Be frank and keep growing.